Hey folks, my name is Jessica Mashkovich and this is One Take with Jess. My guest today is Greg DeLoia, who is a previous senior buyer of QVC, also my buyer at QVC, back when we were on QVC. Thank you. I wanted to welcome you today and chat with you. I'm so out of breath. I just ran to go take the dogs in another room. And I'm supposed to be fit. Like, you know, I do my cardio and
Yeah.
Okay. Breathe. Yes. So I'm happy to have you on the show. I think that you can add a lot of value to my audience, especially the innovators like myself and the entrepreneurs. You have spent much of your career being a gatekeeper as a buyer to to many people that come to you guys with like the next best thing. That has to be a challenging position for you on that side of the fence, as well as for the innovators on my side of the fence. So thank you for being here today.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to chatting with you and getting caught up and seeing what we get into.
Yeah. Excellent. So you've taken a pandemic pivot and you now have your own company called Compass Strategies.
Correct. Compass Strategies.
Excellent. So you're now back on my side of the fence where you're being the innovator and the product designer helping companies. But tell me a little bit about your start in the business. You and I are what they call seasoned professionals.
Yes.
How did you acquire your seasoning? I know you went to Penn State back in the day. So
Yep.
Yay, we are.
Got my, Penn State. Got my degree, BS degree from Penn State back in the late 70s and was actually in administration of justice and I ended up in retail. So figure that one out. But,
oh boy. There's no justice in retail.
Yeah. Kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, but you never know what road you're going to take.
And, exactly. And you know what? Your first job out of college or that first choice really does lead you down a path,
Yeah, and absolutely. I never ever would have thought I would have stayed in retail. And, I started out in the field, managing stores and opening up new stores and all that sort of thing. And then I got into merchandising in the mid 80s and I didn't want to, but it was kind of the way things happened. I went and interviewed, not wanting the position, and that's how I got into merchandising. And I fell in love with it, product and people and travel and creating and developing. And so it's been a fun journey from getting out of college to where I am today. That's for certain.
Yeah, so. That's that is interesting. What was your first step into the merchandising side of things? Because that is a whole different side of the business, and you are dealing with people from a different aspect.
Yes, and how I got into it was the company I was with they wanted to take someone from the field and get into merchandising, figuring they had good experience with dealing with customers, dealing with what the store teams have to work through and all their challenges. So that's how I got into it. And like I said, I fell in love with the whole product aspect of it and the people aspect. I love working with people and I have a passion for products. So there was certainly a learning curve and I was probably over anxious a lot of times.
Tell me about that. First of all, describe what merchandising is and how that's different from the merchandising group, how that's different from just the retail sales or store side of things.
I mean, I call it merchandising, and depending on where you go throughout the country, different regions and different companies have different names for it. Some people call it buying. Some companies calling the buying team. Some people call it the merchant team. Some people call it the purchasing team. So there's different names for it, but it's basically purchasing the product that you ultimately are going to sell to the consumer. So it doesn't really matter if it's a brick and mortar product's going to go on the shelf, if it's going to go on .com, or if it's going to, like a QVC, if it's going to go on air. At the end of the day, you're focused on the product and what you're trying to develop. So if you're working with the QVC, They want to elevate the product. They want to differentiate the product. They want to have exclusivity versus if you're working with, say, a variety store like a dollar chain or something. All they care about is price point, price point, price point. If you're working with, a big box, a Walmart or a Sam's or a Costco, they want to be different. They don't want to have anyone else have what they have. And so yeah, it's at the end of the day though, it's all about the product. A lot of people in merchandising or buying or purchasing, whatever you want to call it, they always talk about product is king. You hear that saying. I mean, you've probably heard it lots of times over the year. And at the end of the day, it's so true, because what does a consumer want? And depending on which consumer you're speaking about, that answer is going to be a lot different.
Right.
Like
yes.
when you go into a Walmart versus if you go into a Pottery Barn versus if you go into a Neiman's versus if you're watching QVC, what you're looking for is probably a little bit different.
True.
You know?
When you say product is king, and when you're when you're the buying team looking for the right product, we'll just go back to your previous days on at QVC, because that's probably the most resonates the clearest, being that it was so short ago. What makes a product stand out? And this is for, the people that are like me on the other side, that are trying to get, through the gatekeepers to, change our lives and have that moment where we know our product is great, and QVC is now going to showcase it. And how do we even make it into the merchandising team to have that product stand on its own?
There's different buying offices or merchant teams have kind of checklists that they go through. Is it a brand? If it's a brand, then is it a brand that the QVC customer would want? And whoever you're working with, whichever retailer you're working with, is it a brand that customer base would want?
So for example, is it an Apple computer? I know QVC has been, marketing brands or, selling brands. But so a lot of times brands become commoditized though.
Correct. And it depends what category. If you're in electronics, you have to have national brands, versus if you're in home textiles, which, I was involved in home for a long period of time. We love to have our own brand. So we had a Northern Nights, for example, brand that, it was very successful for us, and we developed all of our own product.
Oh, so QVC developed their own product in-house? And
Yes.
Okay.
But we worked with different manufacturers. So
Okay.
we would go to manufacturer A, manufacturer B, and the brand would have a brand positioning. What does the brand stand for? And then you develop and create product to fit into that. But the other thing, like in the QVC world, you talk about quality levels. Obviously Q and QVC is quality. So you would always, that would be a focus. You would talk about demonstrability. Can you demo it? Do you want to do B-roll to demo it, or do you want to do live demos?
Right.
Talk about exceeding customer expectation. That's always one of my favorites.
And how do we exceed customer expectations when an item has not yet even debuted?
Because you can talk to the uniqueness of the product. You can talk to the demonstrability of a product. You can talk to the end consumer, like how are they going to use it?
Mm-hmm.
And you have that opportunity to go through all those elements, and then think about when the customer gets it home and they open up that box or that package, is it going to come in and exceed the bar that you set on what you said and what you claimed and what you demoed?
Right.
So that's kind of like how you get merchants excited. Wow, that's unique. Wow, that's new. Wow, that's demonstrable. Wow, that customer's going to love it.
That's good. And I've actually been across the table from, that conversation, trying to wow and doing all that fanfare. how it, being that, the buying teams are rather inaccessible, and I say that in the sense that it's very hard to get in. I'm sure since the internet came about, you guys are flooded with emails that are leading into the buying team, the purchasing team, making it easier for people to get in, but also flooding you all on the inside with requests that are hard to get back to. Sometimes people think of it as the black hole when they send emails into buyers. Even when you make phone calls into buyers, you can call for 6 months straight, and you're trying to be mindful. Is it a Monday? Because they have meetings. They don't like Thursdays. What's the temperament on the inside of the buying team when it comes to new products and presentations?
It's probably the biggest challenge as a buyer, or as an assistant buyer, or as an associate buyer. And it doesn't matter what retailer you're working with. I have a lot of friends across the country that are in retail, obviously. And in a typical, say, 10-hour day, you're lucky if you have an hour of your own time. And what I mean by that is you get called into, or you have a lot of meetings scheduled, number one. Then you have a lot of meetings that you're pulled into, or that are not scheduled, but that's come up that you have to go to. You have to deal with urgent matters that come up. And then, you have an average buyer today probably receives, I would say, between 300 and 500 emails a day. And then on top of that, you throw on probably a couple dozen phone calls. So when you understand the magnitude of that, along with the meetings that are scheduled, along with the meetings that aren't scheduled, it's probably the biggest challenge in merchandising and buying across the country today. And a lot of companies are trying to address it, like how do you get things off of buyers' plates so they can focus on meeting with potential vendors and meeting with people that are creating new products or have new ideas or have new patents. How do we free up their time so that they can, try to find the next new, gadget or whatever it might be?
Yeah. How's that? What type of things are they talking about to try? I mean, I actually had no idea that goes on the inside, how overwhelming it is in the buying group.
I honestly think that, again, cross country, it's the number one challenge. How do you free up time so that buyers can be buyers, so that merchants can create product and develop product and change product and be different than other retailers? And how do you fit it into the positioning of that particular retailer? Again, doesn't matter who it is. It can be a Walmart or Sam's. It can be a QVC. It can be a Macy's. It can be a Bed Bath & Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
They all have their positioning of how they want to present product to the consumer. So as someone who's developing product, who has product that wants to attempt to sell them, how do you get their attention? That's the biggie. So that of the X number of emails and phone calls they have of people trying to set up appointments or phone calls with them, how do you get their attention so that they say, oh, I want to call this person back, or I want to email this person back?
Right. So what's the secret?
Newness.
How?
Newness is always good. Uniqueness is always great. Exclusivity is huge. So if you can present a new item, a new product, a new technology that's exclusive, and you're offering it to that retailer first, you'll probably get their attention.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yes.
I like that. I like that hook. I'm actually going to star that.
Think about it. I always try to put myself into other people's shoes. And, if someone trying to get in, if they had a little bit of understanding and saying, okay, if I put myself in a merchant's or buyer's shoes, like, what are they up against that if I understood, I'd approach it in a different way so that I could get their attention? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And is there a threshold where you're doing too much? So for example, you send your email, you say, exclusive with QVC, innovative product. It's new, it's unique. please call me back. And you put some, maybe even a video of you demonstrating the product to show that it's got quality and uniqueness, and you put a little blurb of the feedback. So you're trying to hit all the marks. And then you follow up with a phone call, maybe the next day or 3 days later. Is there a threshold where the buyer's like, this person's a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I used to have a rule. If someone would leave me a voicemail twice in the same week on the same topic, probably was not going to call them back.
really? Why is that? It can't be just like a very eager person trying to make sure that
They just took up their time by having me listen to that second voicemail.
Okay. So I
Yeah,
guess
so it's time management. It's time management.
Okay. So you're not going to call them back.
If they're repetitive with the same thing without something new to offer, they're certainly not on the top of the list.
Okay.
You have to keep in mind though, for a typical buyer, assistant buyer, associate buyer, it's absolutely physically impossible to get back to everybody.
True. But that old adage of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, it does not
No,
fly well. How does someone know what the rules are, what the unspoken rules are? Maybe personally, with you, or maybe with the other buyers have their own little rules that they go by.
And everybody's different.
Yeah. How is an innovator or a product owner supposed to know what might be too much or not enough?
I think that you stay respectful, and you come across that you understand, at least to a certain degree, maybe not to the magnitude of the challenge for time, but you're respectful of that, and that you feel that it could be, you believe it's worth their while to take 5 minutes, whatever, to take a look at it, and you would love to have an opportunity to follow up. And chances are, if you just get out what's most meaningful, that would be most eye-catching, stay respectful of the time, chances of getting a reply would be a lot higher.
Yeah.
Versus like if you're sending a second email, and it's the tone of the email or the tone of the voicemail has a little bit of an attitude associated with it, you may not get a call back.
Oh boy. I'm underlining these things over here for my own future. I tend to be a follow-upper, and I think I may have broken your rule. Even this.
I called you back, didn't I?
Yes, you did. But I think I may have broken a rule probably on a Bed Bath & Beyond side. I've been trying to get a hold of someone since the summer, and he has not returned the phone call. So I tried twice this week because I had it on my to-do list.
They're going through a little
Actually,
bit.
I think it was Friday and then Tuesday. So maybe it's not the same week.
Yeah. Well, plus you have to take into account the travel. I mean, there were months that I might have been in my office maybe 3 days out of the whole month, because between being overseas or in market or at a vendor or there's
wow.
That's, again, it comes down to the biggest challenge is time. Like, where do you find it?
Yeah. So between all of the incoming alerts from people saying I have the best product and it's going to be like the next whatever is what is the most successful product on QVC?
Oh, I don't know if you could really categorize.
Yeah. Is there such a thing?
No, because it's important to have a balance between different categories, because your sales volume, your dollars per minute, your return rates, your margins, all of those things come into play.
Yeah.
So it's important, because when you figure out your plans and what you need to do and what you need to accomplish, you have all of those elements that come into play that have to balance out.
Yeah, that's true. So, but I guess my question was, between all of the incoming products that you guys are being hit up with, you all still find that you have to go out to find products?
That's the most important part of the job.
Really?
Going on buying trips, whether it's to the manufacturer, going to market, again, depending on what industry you're in. If you're in home textiles, You need to go be in New York for there's 2 huge home textile markets a year. The largest home textile market in the world is in Germany, typically every January. There's bedding markets out in Vegas in January and July. There's, like, if you're in lawn and garden or hardware, the biggest shows out in Vegas in May.
Yeah.
If you're in outdoor sporting goods type stuff, those are January and July. And it used to be in Utah, now they're in Colorado. But you have to go to those markets. And it's not only just to find potential new vendors, but it's to find potential new items, new concepts, new brands, new technologies.
That's interesting. And that, I would never say that the intentions are that it's ill-intentioned, but being that you guys create your own brand or had created your own brand, is that a little bit, when you put yourself out there as a vendor in the market, you hope that you're going to get the business that comes in. But if other people are looking for innovation and want to scoop it up and make it their own, is there some moral, judgment that you guys use where you're not necessarily taking other people's innovative styles or patterns and making it as the QVC brand?
Well, there's a couple different answers to that. I mean, legally,
it's a hard
there's
question. I'm sorry.
certainly things in place to keep that to a minimum. But morally and ethically, I mean, I would never take a concept from someone or technology or pattern or whatever it might be, and make them think that I'm not going to do it, take it, and then use it myself.
Yeah.
If I liked it, I would figure out a way how I could work with that individual, since they created it and developed it. How can we work together so that whether we did it under your brand or my brand, that's okay. We'll figure that out. How can you create a win-win so that, you can still be new with the technology or whatever it might be, or the concept, but do it in the right way.
Definitely. And we get, to be fair, everyone is inspired from many different places. I may be inspired from a walk in the park and not necessarily have to pay royalties to the person that jogged by me wearing a very cool something like jacket that inspired me to create a blanket, but so we're inspired indirectly every day.
Sure.
I could see how walking those shows are, definitely a place for inspiration.
I mean, think about it. You go to some of these markets and you have, 2,000, 3,000 booths, different companies there. And you can see a lot of newness.
Absolutely, especially on the international side of things. There's some innovations that come out of Japan. I actually do that. I scour some of the international websites, the product websites, and I just see, I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be so awesome. So yeah, very cool stuff. So, go ahead. I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
No, it's just as you go, again, depending on what you're doing and what your goals are and what side of the desk you're on. Are you trying to sell someone, or if you're a buyer or merchant, you're trying to figure out what you can create to present to your consumer. What I said earlier, product is king. Consumers are always looking for what's new, what's the next new big thing, whether it's a color, whether it's a pattern, whether it's a style, whether it's a technology. What's going on in the world today with technologies, it's insane. That's why I'm loving what I'm doing these days is, I'm working with a technology company out of North Carolina, out of France, out of Greece, and you can take these technologies and incorporate them. It could be in activewear, it could be in sleepwear, it could be in bedding, it could be, and you can apply them in so many different manners that it's a blast.
Wow. Is that the technology wouldn't be Kevlar, would it? Because I kind of see a bulletproof reason to bulletproof everything. I know that the gun registrations in New Jersey have gone up so much that there's no ammunition to be purchased, which to me is okay. But yeah, if you're talking about technology in soft goods or clothing, I would say Kevlar would be good.
Yeah, think about what's going on in the world today, with people's concern of cleanliness.
Yeah.
So antibacterial, antiviral, like how can I keep my family and myself safe?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just take that whole world and then figure out how you can make it applicable to different categories. It's really fascinating to me.
I love that. I love that. That's usually where you're allowing your mind to expand and you have a good group of people together that can throw in some ideas. And so speaking of which, now that you have your own company and you're working with a bunch of clients, who is your team? You've always functioned in a team environment. Are you going crazy, working by yourself without having like 3 other people outside your door to tap into?
No, I mean, do I miss it at points? Sure. But just like what we're doing now with this Zoom call, you almost feel like you're with people, because a lot of the companies and the individuals that I'm working with, I have daily, weekly communications with them, whether it's face to face or over the phone. And we talk strategies. I'll go out and do my thing and I'll look for new concepts and new technologies and I'll develop new product and change specs, and whether it's a fiber content or the sizing or the stretchability or quality of a zipper or whatever it might be. And then we'll reconvene and I'll show them the samples and make sure that they're comfortable with it. And if they are, then we'll start the testing of, if we're going to claim A, B, and C, then we want to make sure we can substantiate it with third-party testing. And, we'll go through that process and then we'll reconvene and okay, we passed all of these. Now we're ready to,
Right.
So, yeah. So
this actually may have given you time to work on your craft. It sounds like back at QVC, it was always being met with phone calls and emails and meetings, and I don't want to call them distractions because that's what business is. That's you jumble it all together. But it almost sounds like you've carved out a little oasis where it's allowing you to dive deeper into a focused environment. And
that is absolutely the case.
Yeah.
That's
refreshing. Actually, that's refreshing.
Yeah. We were talking about the time management, that biggest challenge in retail for buyers, because you would love for your merchants and your buyers to be able to spend like 40 or 50% of their time developing product and creating product and putting programs together. Yeah. But the reality of it is they're lucky if they're spending 5 or 10% of their time doing it. But for an individual like me, I've always loved product and I've always loved working with credible people. So now I have the opportunity to develop and create and product to fit into specific needs and specific brands and staying disciplined to what the brand positioning statement might be. And then working with people that I trust and they trust me, and it's all very transparent and it's great. So yeah. It absolutely is. Yes.
Well, that's the pandemic pivot, whether by choice or circumstance. It's been okay for certain people.
Yeah.
You get hit in the pocketbook, or you get hit in the travel or commute or whatever used to be your fun part of your corporate job. You take a hit, but there's wins on the other side of that too.
Yep. Oh, I'm having a blast right now.
That's wonderful.
People and product.
Yeah. So, but you're deliberately not getting yourself entrenched on the selling side of things, which is interesting because you came from that whole selling, the retail selling side and then the merchandising selling side, meaning the buying side, I should say. And you're deliberately kind of cutting yourself off of that sphere. Is that intentional for sanity reasons?
It's, I've never been a salesperson in my whole life. And I just look back and I try to be honest with myself and say, where does my passion lie? Like, what do I get excited about? And I love creating product. And, being at QVC as long as I was, and even with a couple of places I was at prior to that, I was at Walmart, and I was at Home Place. It afforded me opportunities to really dive into the product. And I always just, people to this day, they make fun of me like, Greg, how can you get so excited about a white bed pillow or about a, you know, a cotton sheet set or, a, you know, it's
Or a
like,
Throwbie.
or throw, because you can make it better. You can make it different. You can make it so that, I mean, when I was at QVC, I always tried to elevate and differentiate from what other retailers were doing.
Yeah.
And now what I'm doing is, depending on, you know, my clients and who we're building product for, we build it with specific goals that, okay, if it's for retailer A versus retailer B, we want to make sure we're addressing certain elements that we know those elements are important for retailer A, and then we know different elements are important for retailer B. So it affords us the opportunity to do that. And it's so instead of just doing it for one company, I now have the chance to do it with several companies. And will I get involved in any of the selling to the retailer? I might, to a little degree, small degree down the road, as I, you know, get involved with working with these folks and developing new product. You know, I've had a couple of people say, "Hey, can you come to the sales meeting with us because you understand the product better than we do?" So if they questions come up on testing, or why did you put this spec in it, and, you know. The understanding and the thought process, the strategic thought process of why and how you put the product together, it's kind of, you know, up there a little bit. So hopefully I could help and help,
you know what, shield yourself though. You know, you're doing it right. On the selling side of things, you get the doors closed in your face, you get the window closed, you get the lights turned out, you get the nose. And it's got to be a numbers game. You have to put on your coat of armor and not get, you know, deflated by that whole thing. You believe in your product. You're trying to get them to believe in your product. It's a brutal side of the business. And I too share your passion with the whole creating the product, developing the product, you know, enhancing it, making it, you said elevate and differentiate. I wrote those things down because that too is like so important on the product development side of things.
Yep.
And then a lot of times with the solo entrepreneur, you do have to like deal with your scars of, you know, the buyers rejecting the item or not getting back to you, or, you know, those types of things. So definitely stay shielded in what your passion is. And when you were talking about the product side of things, you were smiling. And then when we started talking about the sales side of things, you definitely started to get a straight face. So just body language communicates that you're definitely doing what is currently making you happy and bringing you joy. So that's a good thing.
My stress level is lower than it's probably been in 40 years. It's yeah, I probably listen, even though I can't go see and listen to live music, I'm listening to a lot of music, exercising. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know if you saw Hamilton. It was on TV. They did the TV broadcast of the actual performance on Broadway.
I did not see it.
Oh, you must from your living room, watch Hamilton, go find it. I don't know if it's still on Netflix or if it was a limited time, but I think it might still be available. Hopefully.
You can find everything anymore.
Yes. I totally suggest that. That's a wonderful piece of art to entrench yourself in with your new free time and your Zen life that you're living.
It's funny though. I mean, you say free time, and I'm actually on the phone, on Zoom calls in my office, getting this brain to just like, it never shuts off. Yeah. I have, see, I'm old fashioned, like all these notebooks. I have 13 of these notebooks just filled with all my notes, and I scribble things down all the time.
I know what you're saying. Remember, you and I are seasoned.
Yes, seasoned. But yeah, and I take, it's nice because, you know, over the years, you have an opportunity to meet so many great people and work with so many wonderful people that are so knowledgeable, and, you know, you get to travel the globe, and it's just, I love to observe, listen, and learn. Like, if you say something, I pause for a second and I try to digest what you're saying and why you're saying it, what you mean by it. So over the years, I've been so fortunate to have so many opportunities to do that. And I just fast forward to today, a lot of things that I do, again, depending on the project I'm working on, I think about, okay, what's the problem solution to an item, like a category? What's the feature benefit? What's the, and you can just go quality value relationship. You can go through so many of those types of things as you're working with product and thinking about, okay, I want to sell retailer A or retailer B, and make it applicable to what that particular goal is or specific goal is for that retailer.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's great. Like I said.
You could take the boy out of corporate, but you can never take the corporate out of the boy. And I mean that by saying you were well trained. And, just like I came from corporate as well. I used to work for JP Morgan Chase back in the e-business department. I was the product manager, had to deal with the entire realm from inception to deployment, technology, legal, marketing, sales, all the way to the consumer. It was a direct to consumer product. But, working in corporate for a number of years, it gives you that background, that foundation, that structure for how to, evaluate a problem and solve it, or whatever else you needed. So a lot of what you just said seemed as if it was the structure and the foundation that can be applied to almost any widget or problem.
Yes. When
So
you learn certain things, you can take that and apply it in different categories and different environments. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. And I advise my kids. My son is 20. He's also going to Penn State. And I always tell him, I'm like, you and your sister, she's a couple years behind him, should definitely work for corporate. Get a foundation, get a structure. You'll have lots of resources at your disposal. They may have you travel. They may have you meet with people that you would never be able to do on your own. So all these kids that are looking to just quickly get out there and be an entrepreneur, or even like quickly get out there and create a product, they know nothing about business yet. They know nothing about the entire other world that you have to have knowledge of. And they haven't, experienced things that a lot of times corporate would really be able to provide you in terms of resources and experience.
Yeah, it's great learning grounds. And whether, if you're in retail, for example, it's great for product understanding, for planning, for budgeting, for financial reasons, for logistical reasons on how you, traffic wise and moving goods around the country or moving goods from out of the country into the country, testing and quality levels, and how do you get things tested, and thinking like as a consumer, do I need to worry about weights? Do I need to worry? I mean, it's just, you can learn so much by being in that environment, at least for a while before you go out on your own. I totally agree.
Right. I mean, I learned tremendously working with QVC. I had to bring the containers in. I had to get them through customs. I had to manufacture the product. This is all me and China at 3:00 in the morning. And then I would call upon the appropriate people at QVC. What do I do? My container is, has been pulled from customs and is getting taken apart. So they would be helpful and walk me through that. But these are learning experiences that I now have under my belt, so it's the more experiences you can have, the better.
Absolutely.
So tell me about the environment that selling back in the, or the merchandising team, or results that were driven. QVC was very much a dollar per minute types of results. When it would hit the floor, it would go live. You'd have that minute to 7 minutes to 10 minutes to sell the product, and then you get your instant results back. How has things been different on the TV sales kind of things when people can go to Amazon and buy the product, or they can go to QVC.com or Bed Bath & Beyond, or you get the product out there and you're doing your job with grabbing people's attention, but it's becoming harder and harder to grab the sale and pluck it right into the people called the 800 number, or they visited the QVC website, because they have other website windows that might be open at the time.
My understanding is that the business has shifted a little bit as far as still within that world. Instead of the immediate sales results, you may have a tail where you get the sales results later in the day or the next day, because people will watch it and then they'll go to the computer later in the day, or they may see it and then they go to the computer later in the day and actually watch it, and then they buy it, or the next day they may go watch it and then they buy
Yeah,
it.
true.
Not
With
in that real
DVRs,
small window anymore. It's spread out over more time.
that's true. DVRs could record specific QVC shows and then they may watch it, or they may have a running cart for the week and then check out once a week, and bring all their items out there that way.
Yeah.
Um,
The ever-changing world of how consumers shop.
Right. And then you have the influencers and social media. And I know QVC has certainly turned to a lot more celebrity endorsed or celebrity branded items. Actually, I ran into Catherine Zeta-Jones. Like when I was on QVC, she was on it as well at the same time. And I also ran into the Property Brothers.
Jonathan and Drew.
Yes.
I
They
worked
are,
with them.
oh my
all
God,
three
they're
of
so
them.
nice.
They are. It was fun working with all three of them.
Yeah. But so how do regular products compare in terms of, celebrities being on? So if Catherine Zeta-Jones has her sheet set or blankets, and she and I were on in the same segment, the rankings of product, celebrity versus non-celebrity, or, commodity type sheet set versus innovative, throwbie product. How are these apples and oranges? How does the buying team make sense of if a product was a success in the non-celebrity realm versus the celebrity realm? You know what I mean?
It goes back to a lot of the common elements, problem, solution, feature, benefit, quality, value, uniqueness. We used to call it USP, unique selling proposition.
Right.
Uh,
I
and
could see how that can be compared across the board for products, but when you have the halo effect of a celebrity,
consumers are pretty smart though. They just because you put a celebrity's name on it doesn't mean they'll buy it. There has to be a legitimate association with the product, in my opinion. I mean, if you take someone like a Catherine, she was very, very involved from day one on product development. And it was from, personal experiences. She had a couple of her own colors that were utilized within her color palette. She had patterns that she brought out from, her grandmother. And I mean, so there were legitimate reasons for being, versus if you take a celebrity and they just slap their name on product, just call it their brand, consumer's going to know that and it's not going to do well.
right, right.
So it comes back to product is king.
That's true. How about Lori Grineer's involvement in Shark Tank? How has that helped?
She probably started that, 10 years ago or something?
Yeah, yeah.
If I had to guess, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's gone extremely well for her. You see her on all the time. And I think she's enjoying it and the show continues to do well. And I don't think you see her like on QVC nearly as much as what you used to.
Yeah. I mean, all of these things are a very well-oiled machine. I'd always say that QVC is an extremely well-oiled machine when it comes to, the products and putting them out there and the production. I think Shark Tank as well is a very well-oiled machine. They all have their products, they run with it. It airs at the time that the product is already available for purchase, so that the TV show becomes a marketing vehicle and the QVC becomes a marketing vehicle. Like everything is very well timed and well tuned when it comes to that. So
yeah, I mean, those folks know what they're doing.
Yeah. in all realms. You guys knew what you were doing as well. Like I said, you were well trained with a good toolkit.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's key that, the seasoned people help the younger people, whether you're in the corporate world or wherever. I love to see it whenever others reach out or offer a hand to help the personal growth of younger people. If they come up, I love seeing that.
Yes, and that's true. And I think a lot of young minds are great. They're nimble, they're quick, they're on top of the current technology. If someone pulled the plug though, like Texas right now has no power. I'm not as confident that the younger generation might know how to turn back to the traditional ways of doing business, given no technology at their disposal, giving no TikTok and Instagram and social media. I mean, they're whizzes at social media, but they're also, like you said, us seasoned folks, we seasoned folks may be able to still provide a level of business that works if the plug is pulled,
Yep.
or just if people are wanting to transact in a more personal way. So AI and technology is certainly the most quick and instant way of communicating, but there is a personal touch. And I think we've all felt it in the pandemic that you can't only rely on email. You can't only rely on, a lot of people don't even turn to the phone. I'm a pick up the phone kind of person, where the younger generation is I'm going to send an email message and that'll be my task. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of important communications being done through email. I think it just leaves the door open for miscommunication or misunderstanding.
yeah.
I've seen it happen over and over again. And for how quickly you can pick up the phone and talk to someone, or if you're in an office environment, just to get up from your desk and walk down the hall to see someone face to face. It might take a couple more minutes at that particular time, but in the long run, it could save you a lot of time and hassle.
Absolutely. They have a lot to learn from us old folks.
It's great. I mean, when I had a team member that was had a desire to learn and to do well, and just was like open arms on feedback. I mean, I absolutely loved it. I still, to this day, I love working with younger folks and that want to learn, and if I can help them in their personal growth, I'm all in.
That's true. When I'm like back to my corporate thing, I was in my late 20s, and there was someone at JP Morgan Chase, it was Chase at the time, who was just brought on board to lead the e-business group. And he didn't even unpack his briefcase, where I sat in his office and I said, I'm going to be a sponge and I'm going to learn everything from you. I worked in the marketing department at that time. I wasn't even in an e-business group. He was the only first person to come in and carve out the group. I'm like, as you're carving, I want to be in your group. And I'd have meetings with him every day at 3:00, where we would meet for an hour. And thank goodness I had an understanding marketing boss. But yeah, I was just there to absorb everything that he could teach me.
Yeah.
And he was an older gentleman who was receptive to, to me basically strong arming him into being my mentor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, I still have a lot to
thing.
learn. Yeah. And I'm still learning every day. Even if I can get to be someone else's, apprentice, I would be ready to learn anything anyone has and teach whoever.
Yep. I mean, even now with what I'm doing with Compass Strategies, as I'm meeting new folks and getting into new projects, I love the opportunity to get into some elements maybe that I'm not up to speed on, or just something totally new or new technology and how it's applied at the factory. And I just love learning new things every day.
Yeah, and you are a wealth of knowledge. I don't mean to puff you up there, but you are. And I'm sure whoever you're working with, whatever team you're working with, you can teach them a lot that they never knew before about these levels, the details that go into making a product, from the start with
I was taught a long time ago that kind of like buying, when you buy a house, the three most important things are location, location, and location.
yeah.
When you get into product development and brand positioning and staying disciplined, it's about details, details, and details.
No. The devil is in the details. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah.
So before we part ways, are there like 5 tips that you may have for people for both sides? Being that your background is on the retail side of things, and now of course you're using the product development side of your brain. For people who have an innovative product that are trying to get it into retail, what are a couple of tips that you can tell them to try and break the buyer barrier, without getting blacklisted, like I may have?
Let your passion come through. Be truthful, honest with what you're saying. Don't be misleading just to try to get someone's attention. Be professional, respectful, and then try to put yourself in the other person's shoes as much as you can, depending on what the scenario is. Sometimes it's impossible to, but sometimes you may have a little bit of knowledge to help you understand the situation. That's really it. Stay respectful.
What might be the subject line for the intro email to get in there, or the quick voicemail, like, hey, I know that you're probably terribly busy, but
new concept, just got my patent approved. It could be something like that, just to catch the eye, catch the attention.
Okay. Good advice. Very good advice. And then on the other side of the thing, where you may have young buyers coming in, what kind of tips would you have for the youngins?
Oh my goodness. You mentioned it earlier. Be a sponge. Learn from anybody and everybody. Observe what's going on. Like, even if it's not in your department, if you're in a meeting and some other folks are talking that are in totally different departments throughout the organization, listen to what they're saying and try to understand why they're saying it, and what maybe their hurdles have that they have versus hurdles you may have, and how can you take that and apply it to your world. Or when you're working with the vendor and you're trying to get a cost and you're trying to get a certain specification from the manufacturer, from the vendor, instead of just going full force and saying, this is what I need, slow down for a second and listen to what they're saying. Maybe they have a couple roadblocks that they have to live by and they can't bend those rules at all. So if you understand that, you maybe can both get to the common goal just by listening, observing, and trying to understand what the other person is saying or why they're saying it. And then just stay disciplined for whoever you're working for, whatever retailer you're working for. Understand the goals, like what does the brand of your retailer or the company you're working for, what do they stand for? Like, what are they really trying to accomplish to present to the consumer, and stay disciplined to that.
Golden advice. Like,
it
is
varies dramatically by retailer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But what what you've put out there is basically very general tips for, how to, and that's wonderful.
And time management, being in retail, especially being in merchandising and buying, time management is so important. Yeah,
I wish time management was taught all the time at every level. Like in high school, it should be mandatory. In college, it should be mandatory again. And, hopefully by the time you join any corporate organization, they have that as their first orientation course, for you to take.
Yep. Be a leader.
What's that?
Be a leader. Lead by example.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yes.
Well, it was extremely good catching up with you. You definitely seem like
Yes.
you're in a happy place. Tell me, does being a Penn State alumni get you any perks? Am I paying like through the nose for an alumni that isn't going to pay off for anyone in the future?
I don't really think it gets me any perks. It leads to good conversation.
It does. It does. You are part of like an extremely large, passionate network of people.
Very large family of folks. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
I did a podcast with a professor at Penn State recently. It's on my One Take with Jess podcasts about a particular organization that's at Penn State. So
I'll have to check it out.
yeah, I tapped into a very intellectual community there with access to their
Very cool.
administration.
Well, thanks for having me today.
Yes, thank you for hopping on. Again, good catching up, and thank you for all of the advice. I hope this helps people going forward. And please subscribe to One Take with Jess. It's on YouTube, and you can also listen on your podcast listener. Just search One Take with Jess and on Apple Podcasts and all the other listening devices, and you can hear all the audio.
Sounds great.
Give it a thumbs up.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Okay, and good luck with everything. I'd love updates on all the fun success and products you're going to bring to market.
We'll keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care, Greg. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.